know that I began my writing career in the 1980s, writing young adult fiction? My first novel, Naira, was a coming-of-age story that takes place in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, my hometown, and that book was quite successful. But I didn't always feel comfortable writing young adult fiction. I was a 28-year-old woman who was trying to write for teenagers. I was a mother of one, and I wasn't sure exactly or whether or not I could tap into being a teenager. However, I soon found out that I wasn't far removed from that stage in my life, and that I did, in fact, have a lot to say on the subject. I still remembered feeling awkward in my ninth grade class, or feeling ostracized by those teenagers that were so popular and that everybody wanted to be around. I also was the daughter of a single father, and that was odd. I had no woman in the household to really guide me and teach me. So even though my aunt played a very large part in my life, and she is the reason that I am the person that I am today, my father was the first person to take me to buy makeup. My father was the first person to take me to buy a bikini. And let me tell you, when he saw me in that outfit, he changed his mind and told me, nope, you're not going to buy that. My father was the first one to buy jeans for me. So I have a unique perspective. I lived in a house with two brothers and a father, and I was the only girl there, or the only female in the household. So I can tap into those experiences. I also chose the category of young adult fiction for my writing path because I felt that I wasn't experienced enough to talk about the things that adults dealt with. Yes, I was 28 years old, but I hadn't lived an awful lot. I didn't have a lot of experience, or so I thought, under my belt. So I felt comfortable and I felt safe writing about teenagers. The idea for my first book, Naira, came about after I had my son. I realized that there was a lot that I didn't know about being pregnant, about being a new mom, about raising a baby, about raising a child. And I thought, if I, at the age of 26, felt inadequate, felt uncertain, felt concerned, and let me tell you, I was doing my homework. I was reading all types of books on motherhood. I was learning about breastfeeding as opposed to formula. I was learning as much as I could, but my knowledge was lacking. And I began to think that if someone like me, someone who was 26, didn't know a lot about being a parent, what must a teenager be feeling? What must they be going through? And maybe there should be a book that guides them or that gives them information about pregnancy, about labor, about being a teenage mom. I also worked at a hospital, and I still work at a hospital, same hospital. I've been there for 36 years, and I would see blood work coming down to the lab, which is where I worked, from labor and delivery. And there were quite a few teenagers that would come in to deliver their baby. Some were as young as 11, and some were as old as like 17. And whenever I would see their ages, I would stop and think about what type of life they were going to have and how their life would change. And how did they become pregnant at such a young age? And I'm sure some of the young girls have very troubling experiences. Some were underage, so you know that the sexual activities were inappropriate. And yet these young girls were pregnant. So I wanted to write a book to warn teenagers that were in situations where they could prevent pregnancy, I wanted to give them a cautionary tale. I wanted them to see that life is going to be difficult as a teenage parent. Your life will forever change as a teenage parent. And I understand that this book will not help those girls that became pregnant through no circumstance of their own because they were minors and they were taken advantage of. I know this book is not going to help them, but I feel like it would help other women or other teenagers. And what has been nice about my book, Naira, is that over the years, the audience that I was trying to reach, which was teenagers, young adults, I didn't initially reach them. But who I did reach were their parents. They were church members. They were librarians. They were friends. They were cousins. They were all type of women that wanted to look out for the welfare of the young girls in their lives. So they would buy my book and present my book as a present to teenagers. And once this book started circulating in Philadelphia and in Delaware and New Jersey, it took off. So that is how my writing career began. And that is how I started writing young adult fiction. Do you know that Naira still remains my top seller, my number one seller? And it exists in its original paperback format. It also exists in ebook and audiobook. And I have young women who come up to me today and tell me that they read my book when they were in high school and that they truly enjoyed it. The Philadelphia Free Library bought cases and cases and cases of my book. And this book allowed me to be on television programs, to be on news programs, to be in the newspaper. And I just want to say that I love writing young adult fiction. And even though I have branched out and began writing contemporary romances, medical romances, suspense romances, young adult fiction is truly important to me. And I find that I am constantly coming back to that category. I find something very intriguing, very fulfilling in writing about first love and in writing about being afraid of leaving your teenage years and becoming an adult, or living in a time where everything is new and everything is fresh and your emotions are just so on the surface. And it's a beautiful time, I believe, being a teenager, because the whole world is before you and you are just beginning your journey. And there are so many experiences and things that you are going to go through. And of course, there are going to be good times and bad times. But I think the world of young adult fiction is a world where an author can explore missed opportunities in their teenage years. These books can provide cautionary tales for these young adults that are currently reading such books. I feel that there is so much opportunity and there's such a need for young adult fiction, especially when we talk about African American young adult fiction or Latino young adult fiction or people of diverse and different ethnic backgrounds. Their voices need to be seen and heard. And there's so many teenagers out there that are looking for stories that talk about them and their situations, or stories that reflect their personalities and their ethnic backgrounds and the particular things that they're going through. So I will always be a young adult fiction writer. I will always put out books for that audience. And sometimes my books will be multicultural, as in the birthday series. And then sometimes they will be exclusively African American fiction, which is my Urban Girl series. But no matter the genre that I write in, the category that I write in, I will continue to produce all types of books.